Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Math, City and Guilds 3850, and I am Tamika Lodge Fenton. Today we'll be going through a Stage 3 math paper. Let us begin. So the objectives for today's session are to review concepts in math skills, understanding how to approach math exams, questions, and pretty much making reasonable selections. So our first question for the afternoon: which one of the following sets of numbers contain only multiples of 12? And we want to review all options A, B, C, and D. All right, so what is it that we first need to know? What are multiples? A multiple is a number which can be divided by another number without a remainder. What do I mean by that? Let's look at the example. So we have 32 being divided by 4, giving us 8. 8 sets of 4. So if I were to divide 32 by 8, I would get 4 sets of 8. So 32 is a multiple of both 8 and 4. All right, another way to look at multiples. When you divide a number, or pretty much when a number is multiplied by another whole number, we can see patterns being formed. Examples here. So multiples of 2. If we were to multiply 2 by 1, we'd get 2. 2 multiplied by 2 gives us 4. And you can pretty much see the pattern there. Multiply by 3, you get 6. 4, you get 8. You can also do it for other numbers. 3 and 4 is done here for you. And you see that a pattern is being formed when you look at the multiples of numbers. So let us go back to the question now. Which of these options, A, B, C, or D, has only multiples of 12? All right, so let's look at option A. We have A being 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, and 12. Remember what I said, multiples, number that 12 can be divided into. You cannot get a set of 12 from 1, 2, 3, 4, or 6. So A is definitely not a good option. Let us look at B. 12 can go into 12 one time. 12 can be divided into 24 two times. And you can pretty much see the pattern here. 36 3 times, 48 4 times, 65 times. So yes, we know that B is the best option here, and B is the correct answer. So you can definitely see where you're going with this. Let us go to question 2. Which of the following statement is not true? All right, let's examine all the statements we have here. 9 is a prime number. 15 is a multiple of 3. 10 is a factor of 10. And 3 is a factor of 12. All right, we looked at all of that. Let us see which is not true. Is 9 a prime number? What are prime numbers? Prime numbers are numbers that only have 2 factors, one on itself. How many factors does 9 have? It has 3 factors. It has 1, 3, and 9. So 9 is not a prime number. Let us examine the other 3 to make sure we're there. 15 is a multiple of 3. Can 3 be divided into 15? Of course it can. It goes into 15 5 times. What about 10 being a factor of 10? You know this all too well. Every number is a factor of itself. So that's also correct. And 3 can be divided into 12. So 3 is a factor of 12. Therefore, B, C, and D are true statements. The only one that's not is A. So A is the correct response here. And we're right on to question 3. What is 10 raised to the second power, or what we can say 10 squared plus 10 squared? All right, so we're looking at index form. Let's just remember what index form, let's just remind you what index form is. When we look at index form, we have the example we have here is 2 raised to the 4th power. And you have the base, which is the 2, and the exponent or index or power is the 4 in this instance. The exponent, power, index of a number shows how many times the base number is being multiplied by itself. So pretty much 2 is being multiplied by itself 4 times. And the answer here would be 16. So let us go back to the question. What is 10 to the second power plus 10 to the second power? We are multiplying 10 times 10 gives us 100. And we're adding it to 100. So that gives us 200. So the correct option is A for question 3. All right, we're at question 4. The square root of 121 equals, all right, so which number, we're asking you, which number when multiplied by itself will give you 121? You want to do some benchmarking here. What do you know? You know that 10 multiplied by 10 gives us 100. So let's look at the numbers, the options that we have. Option A says 242. That clearly is not a very good option. 60.5 or 60 and 5/10, not a good one as well. So it's either C or D. Now, 12. Do you know what 12 times 12 is? All right, let's see if you know. We know that 10 times 10 is 100. Therefore, we can say 11 times 11. We can try that. And it is correct. 11 times 11 gives us 121. And 12 squared, or 12 times 12, is 144. So your correct option here is option D, 11. We're on to question 5. What is 7,700 written in standard form? All right, so scientific notation expresses a number as, or what I just asked you, standard form or scientific notation, interchangeable in this instance. When you represent A times a power of 10, therefore A must be greater than or equal to 1, but also less than 10. So the digit that we're talking about is 1 or more, but it has to be less than 10 if we're going to write it in standard form. So what power of 10 would you need to divide 7,700 by, where you only have 1 digit to the left of the decimal point? Is it 10? If I divide 7,700 by 10, what do I get? I'm going to get 770. So it's not 10. What about 100? I'm going to get 77. What about 1,000? Most definitely. So if I were to multiply by that same, when I divide, I'm going to get 7.7. And then when I multiply it back by 10 to the third power, or 1,000, I'm going to get back my original figure. So the option here is option C. We're on to question 6, which says, what is 3.6 multiplied by 10 to the 5th power, written as an integer? What are we asked to do here? The opposite of what we just did. So let us look at it. Back to the index form, 10 to the 5th power means you're multiplying 10 by itself 5 times. So 3.6, or 3 and 6/10, multiplied by 5 to the 5th power looks something like this. And 10 multiplied by itself 5 times gives us 100,000. Then we're multiplying 3.6 by 100,000, which gives us 360,000. And that would be option C. We're on to question 7. So we're still on integers. We're looking at both positive and negative integers. The question says the temperature in a freezer is 18 degrees Celsius. The temperature in the refrigerator is 4 degrees Celsius. What is the difference in temperature? So let us look at the number line on the screen here. We have 0 and we have 18, negative 18 to the left of the 0 and 4 to the right. That means the temperature in the freezer is at negative 18 and the one in the refrigerator is at 4. What's the difference? If I were to move from negative 18, if I'm moving from negative 18 to 0, that's 18. And then from the 0 to the 4, that's 4. So 18 plus 4 is 22. So your correct response here would be 22 degrees difference. And that would be option D. So we are at question 8. What is the decimal number 13 in the binary system? What's the binary system? It's base 2. All right, so we are at 13. How do we convert from base 10 to base 2? We are saying to convert to a decimal, we're going to divide by 2. So we're going to write down the remainder as we do the division. So look at the diagram below. And we're going to stop when the quotient is 0. And we're going to read the remainders in the reverse order. So here we are, we're at 13. We start 2 divided by 2. 13 divided by 2 gives me 6, and I have 1 remainder, and I put that remainder there. Then I'm going to divide 6 by 2, gives me 3, 0 remainder. 3 divided by 2 gives me 1 group of 2 and 1 remainder. 2 is now divided into 1, 0, and I have 1 remainder. So now I end up with a 0 in my quotient, and I will stop here. So I will read the number from the bottom up. So the answer is 1101, and that is now in binary form, or what we call base 2. So the correct option here is D. We're at question 9. Solve 1 plus 0.5 plus 0.13, subtract 0.2. I want you to also practice to call your numbers like this. So I'm going to say it again. Solve 1 plus 5 tenths plus 13 hundredths, subtract 2 tenths. And let us do this together. So here we have more than one operation in this problem. We have addition and subtraction. If you were to look at BOMDAS or PEMDAS, you should know by now that addition and subtraction are interchangeable depending on which one comes first in the problem. In this particular problem, addition is first. So we'll add and then we'll subtract. So we're adding 1 plus 0.5 plus 0.13. And our total is, as you can see, I've placed a 0 to hold the place beside to the right of the 5. It doesn't change the value. It just lines up your values better. So you are adding all those 3 values, and your answer is 1.63 or 1 63 hundredths. And then we are going to subtract 0.2 or 2 tenths. And our answer is 1.43. So you're pretty much, all you need to do here is pay attention to how you align your numbers, your digits, and ensure that all the places align well. Your decimal point is above decimal point. From you do that, you're pretty much on your way. Correct option is B. And we're off to question 10. And again, we're talking about what operation is being required here. The question reads, a customer buys a loaf of bread that costs $2.72 and some chicken fillet that costs $4.89. How much change should the customer receive from $10? Now, clearly, this is not Jamaican money, so you know this is US or pounds, because nothing we have in our country costs $7 or $2 and any cents. So let us do the first operation. We're adding the cost of the bread and the chicken fillet. So it's $2.72 plus $4.89, which gives us a total of $7.61. But the question did not ask us just to add. It asked us, what's the change? So we're going to subtract the total that the goods cost from the money that the person is giving the cashier. And that would be $10 subtract $7.61, giving us a change of $2.39. And that is option A. All right. Hope we're all following. We're moving on to question 11. What is 1.3 multiplied by 0.3? So we're pretty much multiplying. But before we do the multiplication, let us look and see what is a reasonable option here. You have 1.3 being multiplied by 0.3. Now, you ought to know what the value of a number is. 0.3 or 3/10 is less than 0.5. So it's less than a half. Now, a half of 1.3 would be half of the 1 and half of the 0.3. So you want to look at the options. 39, not a very good option. So you should not even select that at all. B, also not a very good option, because 3.9 is more than 1 times 1.3. So you have two options, C or D. Let's work it out. So let us see if we can, we're going to work this one out together. All right, so I think you can do this on your own. So when you have 1.3 multiplied by 0.3, you are definitely going to get 0.39. All right. So you have the next question, which is question 12. What is 8.82 divided by 0.7? So we're asked to divide here. We have 8.82 divided by 0.7. Now, it's kind of tricky to divide by decimal, so we can multiply by a power of 10 and still keep the proportionate correct. So we are going to just multiply by 10. 8.82 multiplied by 10 gives us 88.2. And 0.7 multiplied by 10 will give us 7. So if we divide 88.2 by 7, we get 12.6. And that is option D. We really haven't done anything different. All that we've done is made the division a little bit easier for us to work with. Okay, so feel free. If you have one decimal place in your divisor, you multiply by 10. If it's, say, 0.72, you multiply by 100. And that's pretty much it. So our next question, question 13. Question 13 is, a dressmaker needs 28 lengths of ribbon, each measuring 0.65 meters long. What is the total length of ribbons that the dressmaker needs? What is required here? We need to multiply. What does that look like? What are we multiplying? We have 28 lengths, and each length must measure 0.65. So 28 multiplied by 6/500th. 6/500th is the same as 0.65. So 8.2 meter length of ribbon is what is required. And I know you can do that multiplication. So you'd simplify where possible, and then you'll multiply across your numerator, keeping your denominator, and then divide out to get your decimal. So we have option D here. And yes, you have to do all of this without the use of a calculator. City and Guilds is a multiple choice question paper. You have 60 items, and you will have to do it without a calculator. So we are on to question 14. Find the total cost of 2.5 kilogram of onions at $2.38 per kilogram. All right. So let us look at what that looks like. So we have, you need to know that when you are multiplying things, just pay attention to the amount and the cost. So we have onions, and the cost of the onion is $2.38 per kilogram. Now you have 2.5 kilogram. 2 0.5 kilogram. Now, if you're not multiplying, of course you should know by now that, guys, I'm here trying to let you see everything. So 2 kilograms would pretty much cost, 5 plus 5 is 10, would cost $5. No, that's not right. Guys, what am I doing? That is not right. That's the amount of kilogram that was purchased. Each kilogram is $2.38. All right, 8 plus 8 is 16, and 3 plus 3 is 6, and 1, 7. So we're talking about 2 kilograms would cost $5.76, right? And then you have half of a kilogram, which would be half of $2.38. So we are talking about $1 and, is that 16 cents? So 6 plus 6 is 12. And 7 plus 1 is 8, and 1 more 9, right? Am I right? No? Let's see, half of that is that. Half of that is, that doesn't seem right, is it? Yes? It's 9. It's not, it's 9. Half of 38 is 19. So 9 and 6, let us clean that up a little. All right, so it's 19. So it's $1.19 for the half of kilogram, half a kilogram. And we're adding all here. 6 and 9, 15. 7 and 1, 8. 8 and 1, 9. I still feel like I'm off. Okay, good. Was I right? Guys, I'm struggling here. Oops. Oh, it did something else. I'm going to give me 1 minute. Let me see if I can. See with me, guys, I'm working with a new board and I'm getting the hang of it. So we have, I'm touching all sorts of things. All right, let's look at the screen. We have the onion 2.5 kilogram multiplied by $2.38 gives us the $5.95. Now, that would give us the full 2.5 kilograms. And then you work out the cheese. So the cheese is 0.75 kilogram. Now, $8.64 is the cost of 1 kilogram. So the cost of 0.5 kilogram definitely is going to be less than $8.64. So it's going to be $6.48. Now, the total cost for both the onion and the cheese would be the $5.95 plus the $6.48, which would give us $12.43. That is option B. Now we're moving on to question 15. Question 15 says, a customer buys 3 kilograms of potatoes that cost $2.69 per kilogram and a packet of pasta which costs 55 cents. She gives the shop assistant $20. How much change should she receive? So what is required here, guys? We want to look at the cost of the potato, which is 3 kilograms. Each kilogram costs $2.69. So we want to multiply 3 by $2.69, which gives us $8.07. That's the cost for the potato. Now, what about the pasta? 1 packet of pasta, which is 55 cents. So we're going to add the $8.07 to the 55 cents. And that we are going to get $8.62. And we want to figure out how much change we will be getting from the $20. And we'd subtract that and we would get $11.38. And seeing that the question asked you how much change should you receive, your option is option B. All right, we are here at question 16. Now, fractions. We know that several students, shy away from fraction, but it's pretty simple once you understand that fraction represents a numerical value. It is a number, and it is what we use. We use it on an everyday basis. When you spend money, you're spending a fraction of a dollar many times when you go to the store. So the first question here is 3 1/4 plus 1 3/10. We want to add these. Can we add fractions of different denominators? Not quite. It's not as easy as we think. So the best thing for us to do is to represent each portion from the same whole. How do we do that? We identify LCM for both 4 and 10. What is LCM? LCM is the lowest common multiple. What number can we divide 4 into without a remainder? And what number can we also divide 10 into without a remainder? And in this case, it's 20. So 4 is divided into 25 times evenly, and 10 goes into 22 times evenly. So we move right along by establishing what we have as or equivalent fractions. So let's see if we can do this a little bit better. So we're going to have 3 1/4 plus 1 3/10. All right? So we want to represent them as the same, from the same whole. So we want to represent them from 20 being the same whole. We can do it this way, or you can do individual fractions. So because it's addition, I'm going to just keep the whole numbers as they are. So we're putting our 3 there, and we're putting our 1 here. You could actually remove the whole numbers and add them now. So you could say, so I could remove them from here and just put them over here and say I'm going to have 4 wholes. I'm sure of that. So I'm going to put my quarter. So 4 into 20 goes 5 times. So in order to change my 4th to 20th, I'm going to multiply it. So I multiply 4 by 5, give me 20. It's already there. I must do it to the numerator as well. 5 times 1 gives me 5. So pretty much I've rewritten my fraction, which is a quarter, as 5/20. 5/20th, 5/20. Okay, and then I'm going to put my plus sign. I'm keeping the integrity of the problem. 10 divided into 20 goes 2 times. That means I would have to multiply 10 by 2 to get it to 20. I must do the very same thing to my numerator. So 3 times 2 gives me 6. So I have 5 plus 6 gives me 11, and my fraction is out of 20 equal parts. So my option there is option D. Hope you followed along. I hope that was clear for you. We are moving on to question 17. Question 17 is also a fractional question. So we are going to solve 1 5/8 subtract 1/3. They're both fractions. One is a mixed number because one has a whole number and a fractional representation, and the other is just what we call a unit fraction. And that's because the numerator is 1. So we are subtracting. There are different denominators. We want to use the same LCM method, and we want to look at multiples of 3 and multiples of 8. So here I have some listed on screen for you. 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, 21, 24, 27 are all multiples of 3. When we look at multiples of 8, 8, 16, 24, and we could continue. But no need to, because we see that there's a common multiple there. 24 is both a multiple of 3 and a multiple of 8. So we can use that as the denominator, as the lowest common multiple. And here we have the fractions now. 1 15 24th, subtract 8/24. And the answer is 1 and 7/24. And that is option B. I think that was pretty easy and simple. I hope you got that. So we are moving on to question 18. What is 3 2/3 subtract 2 4/5? And as you can see, once you're doing any form of addition or subtraction, the denominators, you want to have the operations must take place with the same denominator. What I mean, the same proportion. If you have a pizza cut in halves, all right, nobody really cuts a pizza in half, do they? If you have a pizza cut in eighths versus a pizza cut in quarters, it's kind of hard to share those slices equally. So you want to make sure both pizzas is cut in the same number of slices. That's pretty much what we're doing here with the fractions. So let us subtract. So the lowest common multiple for 3 and 5 is 15. And I would have written both fractions as, so there were mixed numbers before. If you look on the screen, there are no improper fraction. That means the numerator is greater than the denominator. So you have 11/3 and you have 14/5. And we're subtracting. We are now changing it to the denominator, which is 15. Similar to what we just did, what would you have to do to 3 to get it to 15? Correct. You'd have to multiply it by 5. And if I do it to the denominator, I must also make the change in the numerator. So 3 times 5, 15, and 5 times 11 is 55. And then I go to my other fraction, 14/5. To get 5 to turn 15, I'd have to multiply it by 3. So I'd also need to multiply 14 by 3, which gives me 42. And then I'll just do my subtraction. 55 subtract 42 gives me 13. And the fraction that we are working, the fractional part we have divided our wholes into is 15. So your answer is 13/15. Option D is the correct response. And now we are at question 19. A hotel is sold for $4.5 million. What is $4.5 million? Yes, we want to look at 4,500,000. And we want to figure out what is 1/5 of 4,500,000. So yes, when you hear 4.5 million, it is 4,500,000. And you know this, I know you do. Because $500,000 is 500,000. Excellent. So we are going to figure out what is 1/5 of 4.5. And we're pretty much dividing the 4,500,000 into 5 equal parts. Because it's 1/5. And that gives us 900,000. So it's option C. And we are on to question 20. So you're pretty much a third into your paper. You're almost there. We're going to solve another fractional question. You have 2 1/4 divided by 1/3. Let us do that together. So we have 2 1/4. When we're dividing, what do you know about division? So we have 2. You want to write down your question first. 2 divided by, did I say 1/4, guys? I hope I said 1/3 now. Great. So we can change this mixed number to an improper fraction. 4 multiplied by 2. Why do we multiply by the 4 by the 2? We have 2 wholes, and each whole is cut into 4 equal parts. So 2 times 4 gives us the 8 parts that make up the whole. Then we add that extra part up top. We get 9/4. We're not going to keep the division. We're going to make it a multiplication because you ought to know that multiplication is the opposite of division. So since we change from division to multiplication, we're going to invert the next fraction. So instead of having 1/3, we're going to have 3. And it's really 3 whole, but we're going to put it in a fractional representation. So we say 3/1. And we're going to just do our multiplication here. So there's nothing that we can simplify with. So we just continue the multiplication. 9 times 3 gives us 27. And 4 times 1 gives us 4. So we'll look over there. Do we see anything that looks like this? No, we don't. All right. So let us see if we can simplify 27 quarters. Does 4 go into 27? Yes, it does. How many times does it go into 27? It goes into it 6 times. 6 fours is 24. So 6, if we take away 24 from 27, we have 3 left. And we are still dealing with the same fractional part, which is quarters. So your correct answer here is option D, 6 3/4. All right. So we're here at question 21. Solve 1 4/5 multiplied by 3/4. And we just did a similar question, so we're going to just keep the momentum going. 5 times 1. You always want to write your question down when you're doing your rough work. Please remember, there's a section on your paper that says rough work. Please use it when you are doing your exam. So 5 times 1 is 5 plus 4 is 9. 9/5 multiplied by 3/4. Is there anything that we can simplify? No. So we continue, and we pretty much, I jumped the gunny, but let's continue. So it's 3 times 9 is 27, and 5 times 4 is 20. All right, can we simplify this? Yes, 20 goes into 27 times, into 27 one time, and you have 7 left. And the fractional part is 20. All right, so we are at question 22. A cook has 3 pounds of flour. She uses half of this amount of flour to make a loaf of bread. Then she makes some cakes using 3/4 pound of the flour. How much flour will she have left? All right, let us see. So the first thing she did was use half of 3 pounds, which is 1.5 pounds. Then she used 3/4 pounds. Now 3/4 pounds is just 3/4 pound of a flour. So we're going to take away the 3/4 from 1 pound, which leaves a quarter. So you have a quarter plus the half gives us 3/4. And the option is option A. All right? So just reason this out as best as you can. When you're reading the questions, try to understand what is being asked of you and do accordingly. All right, so we're off to question 23. Solve 24 plus, open brackets, 12 divided by 4. Same concept here. You want to look at the order of operations. What operation do you do first when you have multiple operations in a question? It's usually division and multiplication before addition and subtraction. It is always that way. Now, if you had division and multiplication together and the multiplication was written first, you would do the multiplication and then the division. So we only have division and addition here. We'll do what's in the bracket first. And what's in the bracket? We have 12 divided by 4, which gives us 3. So we pretty much end up with 24 plus 3. And that's pretty much 27. So your option is option D. Awesome. Let us go to a little more reasoning. So this question 24 says, a student sorts shapes into boxes using the flowchart below. Which box should a square be placed in? So you want to read. You want to read and pay attention. So we start, does it have 4 sides? So your question is, does a square have 4 sides? So for this question, you have to be fully clear on the properties of a square. Yes, a square has 4 sides. So you'd continue straight down because the answer there is yes. The next question is, does it have 4 equal sides? Does a square have 4 equal sides? You know this, of course it does. So you continue, yes. Does it have 4 equal angles? What do you know about squares? All the angles in a square are 90 degrees. So you continue. It says, if all those are yes, you place it in box D. So yes, you would have gotten this question correct. D is the correct option. We're moving right along to question 25. I hope you're following. Okay, calculate 3% of 3,300. All right, what does 3% mean? It means 3 out of every 100. Now we can reason this out, or we can definitely calculate it. So let's look at the 300 first. If it's every 3 out of 100, what is 3% of 300? Yes, man, I know you got it. So it would be 3 times 3 because it's 300s. So it would be 9. And then 3% of 3,000. So what we're saying, for every 100, let's look at it. For every 100, so we have 3,000. How many 100 do we have in 3,000? We have 30. So if we were to 30 times 3, it would give us 90. And remember, we have a 9 there. So our total should be 99. So 3% of 3,300 is 99. All right? So that would be option C. Hope you got that one as well. Moving on to question 26. A customer receives discount of 9% if they were to pay promptly for the goods that valued $9,000. The same concept, guys. We're talking about percentage. What is 9%? 9% is 9 of every 100. All right? So 9, so I can simplify. So that's what I did there. I would have divided through by 100, which gave me 100 divided by 100 gave me 1, and 9,000 divided by 100 gave me 90. So 9 times 90 gives me 810. And of course, every number divided by 1 will give me the same number. So your answer is, your discount would be $810. And that would be option D. And we are off to question 27. Calculate the compound interest at 5% per annum on a $6,000 loan for 2 years. I hope you understand what 5%, 10%, 9% look like now, because we're just going to go straight into this. 5% of 6,000, so it's 5 for every 100, same thing. So we have 60 in 6,000. So it's 5 times 6, 60, gives us 300. So $300 is 5% of 6,000. They did say compound. So the first year is 300. Second year, we're going to have to add on that first year interest, which would give us 6,300, and we're going to find 5% of that, which is $315. And then we're going to combine both the 300 and the 315, which gives us $615. And that is option C. That's your interest for the 2 years, compound interest style. Question 28. A machine has a principal cost of $360,000. Simple depreciation is applied at 10% per year. What does depreciation mean? Yes, man, you know it. You depreciate, you lose value. All right? Appreciate means to gain value. Good. Only in Jamaica we have appreciation of every car. You buy a car, but it doesn't depreciate. You just sell it for a higher price when you're selling it. But regularly, things depreciate over time. All right, so we are here, and it says, what is the value of a machine after 2 years? Simple depreciation. We want to find out what is 10% of 360,000. And it's really $10 off every 100. So we are here, and it's $36,000. That's 10%. How many years I said? 2 years. So what are we going to do? Multiply 36,000 by 2. Another way, we could add 36,000 to 36,000, which would give us 72,000. And then we'd subtract it from the 360,000, giving us $288,000. and that would be option D. And that's pretty much it for question 28. We're now at question 29, and we're still doing percentages, and this is an exact paper, guys, so I'm pretty much letting you feel how stage 3 paper will look to you when you sit that exam in June. Please do remember we have 2 sitting-off exams for this cohort of students. We have one in June, and we have another exam in November. And this is because Jamaica would have just gone through Hurricane Melissa, and we wanted to make sure everyone was being catered to. So we have our regular sitting in June, and then our second sitting, which we are calling our winter sitting, in November. Let us move on to question 29. What is 8% expressed as a decimal fraction? And we want to just pretty much look at just calling a number what it is. 8% is 8 of every 100, and it is called 800th. And if you continue doing that, you'll realize that it's really simple. It's 0.08. And what I would have done is divided 8 by 100 and pretty much regroup until I got my answer of 0.08. And that's option B. All right, we're moving on to question 30. We are halfway through the paper. Great job, guys. So let us do question 30. Which of the fractions below is closest to 0.33? Here you pretty much need to understand what these fractions are. So we have 133, 133rd. I'm really not sure how to call this fraction. But 1 over 33. Not the best way to call it, but what you want to do is divide 1 by 33, and your answer would be 0.0303. That is far from 0.33. So we're not going to say that's the correct answer. 1/3, you have, when you divide it, it's a recurring decimal, and it's going to give you 0.333. Continue forever. Infinity. Never stops. Good. But if I were to round it off, I could round it off to 0.33. So pretty much 1/3 looks like my correct answer. But let us look at all the other options we have there to concretize why we are going to choose B as our best option. 3/10, it's 0.3. And that's slightly close, but not as close as 1/3. And then we have 33 and 1/3. Now this is way off. So this is way too large to compare to be the closest. So the question did ask for the closest. So that would be option B. All right? And we move on to question 31. And here we are again. As consumers, you ought to use the math you learn to go out there and interact with the world. That is why we want you to be numerate. We want you to be able to communicate. So when you go to a store and they say you have, pick your best option. The customer has choices of 4 vouchers: 40% off, 4% off, a quarter off, or 1/5 off. Which one would you choose? You have to understand the numbers. Now, let us look at them. 40%. 40 is almost close to 50%. And if it's $30 for the jacket, clearly this is US again. So if it's $30 for the jacket, almost half is $15, so probably about 13, roughly that. So you know that it's more than $4 off. No need to compare it there. 40% is more than $4. But what about a quarter? What about 1/5 off? We're going to do some little work there now. I can rewrite 40% as 40 hundredths, which I can simplify to give me 4/10. And I can also simplify 4/10 to 2/5. So right away, I know that 40% is greater than 1/5. So my 40% is still leading. It's more than $4 off. It's more than 1/5. What about a quarter? If you know what a quarter is as a decimal, it's an easy pickup here, because a quarter is really 0.25. And 0.25 is 25 hundredth, which is less than 40 hundredth. So 40% is really the best price. But you could also, use your 4/10 and convert it to 20ths, and then your quarter to 20ths and make a comparison, you'd still see that 40 is larger than a quarter and 1/5. So the best option there would be A. So I've given you several ways in which you can look at it, and that would be $12 for your 40. I said 13, but I was pretty close. $12 is your 40% off the $30 jacket, which would be the best option if you were to take one of those vouchers as your discount voucher. All right. As I said, remember, math is not just for an exam. Math is for life. Being numerate is an excellent skill to be able to communicate with those what you do, buy and sell, those you work with, anything that you're doing in life requires you to apply math. All right, we're off to question 32. On a map, the scale of 1 to 25,000, the distance, I don't think I read that well. On a map with a scale of 1 to 25,000, the distance between two places is 5 centimeters. So they gave you a scale, and scale drawing is required from time to time. If you're building a house and you get older, you'll understand. So, or you're an architect, who knows? 1 to 25,000, the distance between two places is 5 centimeters. So what they're saying on the map, the distance between two places is 5 centimeters. What is the actual distance in kilometers? When you see 1 to 25,000, it simply means that 1 centimeter on the map represents 25,000 centimeters in actual life on real land. All right, so what do we need to do here? We want to see how much the 5 centimeter represents. And the 5 centimeter will be multiplied by the 25,000, which gives us 125,000. So that's the actual centimeter distance on land. But they did ask the question, they have the answer in kilometers. So we need some more information. This is information that you should know. 10 millimeters is equal to 1 centimeter, 100 centimeter is equal to 1 meter, and 1,000 meters is equal to 1 kilometer. Therefore, we can convert the 125,000 centimeters to kilometers. And this is by dividing the 125,000 by 100,000, because 100,000 centimeter is equal to 1 kilometer. Let me just backtrack a little to help you understand how I came up with that 100,000. If I have 1,000 meters equal 1 kilometer, that means in every one of those 1,000 meters, I can now take out 100 centimeters. So I'm going to multiply my 1,000 by 100 to convert it to centimeters. And I did just that. So you see 100,000 equal centimeters equal 1 kilometer. I do my division and I get 1.25 kilometers is the actual distance on land if it is represented by 5 centimeters on the map. And that's that. You just did scale drawing. We are at question 33. An artist needs to mix a color using 2 parts of red paint with 3 parts of yellow paint. She uses 6 parts of yellow paint. How many parts of red paint should she use? All right, so you see it's option C, but let's explain why it's option C. 2 parts red, 3 parts yellow. So we don't know how many parts red was used, but we know that they used 6 parts yellow. What operation was performed on the yellow part to maintain the original ratio? 3 to 6 multiplied by 2. We could have added 3. But if we added 3, it would not maintain the ratio. So we're multiplying. So we multiply 3 by 2 gives us 6. We also have to multiply 2 by 2, which will give us 4. And that is why the option is C, 4 parts for your red paint. All right? 34. An assistant mixes 200 milliliter of orange cordial with 1 liter of water. Express the ratio of cordial to water in its simplest form. All right? So what do we know? We know that there are 1,000 milliliter to every liter. So 200 milliliter to 1,000 milliliter, and then we can pretty much simplify this ratio. Divided by 100, 200 becomes 2, and 1,000 divided by 100 becomes 10. So we have 2 to 10. Do we see that option? No, we don't, because it's not in its simplest form. We can divide 2 by 2, which gives us 1, and 10 by 2, which gives us 5. The simplest ratio is 1 to 5. All right? And that is the mixture ratio. Similar question. A small bottle of hand sanitizer gel contains 50 milliliters, ml. How many of these bottles can be filled from a 2.5 liter bottle? What is the question asking us? It's asking us how many of those 50 milliliter bottles can be filled from 2.5 liter. And we're going to say it's option C. Let's see how we get there. 2.5 liters is equivalent to 2,500 milliliters. Because for every liter, you have 1,000 milliliter. So we pretty much multiply to get that. How many 50 ml can we get from 2,500 ml? We divide 50 into 2,500 and it gives us 50. That means 50 bottles can be filled with 50 milliliters of gel. All right, so our option C is correct. We are off to question 36. We're getting there. A carpenter has a 6 feet length of wood. He uses 18 inches of wood to make 1 shelf. How many of these shelves can he make? 6 feet, and each shelf is 18 inches. So the first thing there, we kind of need to get the inches and the feet to be, pretty much better related. I'm not going to change the inches to feet. I'm going to do it the other way because I want to figure out how many 18 inches I can get. So we are going to multiply our 6 feet by 12. Why? Because 12 inches make a foot. So we multiply, we get 72 inches. So our 72 inches divided by 18 inches, because we want to know how many shelves we can pretty much get. And that gives us 4 shelves. So our correct answer is option C. That was easy, right? I know. You've got this. We're at question 37. The time in Kingston, Jamaica is 16 hours behind Sydney, Australia. What time is it in Kingston when it is 5 p.m. in Sydney? All right, so guess what I did? I did a little diagram for you. And you're free to draw in the exam. You're free to put it on your paper. If this is the way your brain works, don't worry about it. Just put it in there. So my start time is over here. So it said what? It said Jamaica is 16 hours behind. So the time what time is it in Kingston when it is 5 p.m. in Sydney? So my start is 5 p.m. and I'm going to go 16 hours behind. So 1 hour behind would be 4 p.m. and I continue. So 4, 3, 2, 1, 12. Okay, so I'm now at 12 noon and then I'm going to go 11 a.m. So I'm still in the day and I'm working it back and I put all the way to 16. So 11, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 16 hours later is 1 a.m. early, dark time in the morning. And that is one way. And of course, definitely you could subtract it using the 24-hour clock, because you'd say 1700 is the time in Sydney, and you subtract 1600 hours, and it's 1 a.m. So that's 2 ways in which you can do it. Feel free. So your option is option A. All right. So we are at question 38. Hope you're following along. Hope I am clear and not moving too fast. Let us go to question 38. The table shows the result of a satisfaction survey for a hotel. Customers were asked how they would rate the hotel. These are their responses. So, as I was saying to you earlier, math is not just about computation, it is about communication. So when you do math, you ought to be able to interact with the world. This is a table, a representation of data collected, and it is important that you know how to read these things and how to take information from it. So let us do this together. In total, how many people rated cleanliness as good or excellent? So what do we want to know here? How many persons rated cleanliness as good? We look in the column that has good, we line it up with cleanliness, you see 8. Excellent, we look in the column of excellent, we line it up with cleanliness, that's 9. Then we combine them. Combined in this case, we're adding 8 plus 9 is 17. And that's your option, option C. All right. Here's a little bit more, still table. Lots of things is happening in this table, but let's look at it. Don't be intimidated by the numbers and the fraction. Just follow how you interpret information from tables. The table shows the quantities of food to give puppies of different ages and weight. So you see on your left, you have the weight when fully mature in pounds, and to the top of your table, so that's your horizontal section, it talks about the age of the dog, of the puppy, right? So, and then you have the cups below. So we are talking, what's the question? A puppy is 7 months old and will weigh 60 pounds when he is fully mature. So we have the age and we have the weight. How much food should this puppy be given? So let us start out. What do we have first? We know the puppy is 7 months. So we look at the column that the 7 months would fall in. As you can see, you have 2 to 3 months, 4 to 5, 6 to 8. 6 to 8, so you clearly realize that the 7 is going to fall right there. So we're in that column and I've highlighted it for you. Then it says the puppy is 60 pounds. The first one says 3 to 12 pounds, 13 to 20 pounds, 21 to 50 pounds. The next one says 51 to 75. That is where that puppy will be found. Where do both columns, so not columns, one is a column and one is a row. Where do they both intersect? That's correct. So it is 2 to 3.5 cups of food that this dog puppy needs to get. So it is option B. Hope you saw that and hope you realize how to make it work for you when you're in the exam. Pay attention to the information given, read it well, map it out, sort it out. It's your paper. Write on it, draw on it, shade it, whatever works for you. Just make sure that you select your correct answer after properly reading through and selecting what makes sense. All right, great. We are at question 40. So we're what? 40 out of 60? That's what? 2/3 of the paper. That's right, we're almost there. So the picture shows the dial on a temperature gauge. What is the temperature shown on the dial? So you have to pay attention to what's happening here. Look at the numbers. You can see, you can read. So you have 0, you have 20, 40, 60, 80, 100, and it continues to 200. There are small marks, and then there are like intermediate marks. So if we have 0 to 20, there are some numbers that clearly fall in between. Halfway will be 10, and halfway of 10 to 0 will be 5. So good. So we find the 5 mark and we realize that the second big mark would be 10. Is it touching 10? Not quite. It's almost there. It's touching the mark before 10. So that means it's 9 centimeter, I almost said centimeter. 9 degrees Celsius is what the temperature gauge is saying to us. All right. We're at question 41. This pie chart shows how a family spends their income. And you see, like all of us, we have to pay bills. So it's fuel bill, rent, food, entertainment. They're lucky they have organized their entertainment. We should try it. And of course, saving is very integral here. Which statement is true? The family spends half as much on food as on rent. Let's see what food is. Food is the black section. And what is rent? Rent is all of that gray section. Rent take up most of the money, more than half of it. Is food half of rent? As much, it says spend half as much. No, that's not true. So that's out. The family spends a quarter of their income on food. Does that black area represent a quarter? No, it doesn't. So that's also not true. The family spends less on saving than on entertainment. So let us find entertainment. Entertainment is the one right above the black. Okay, you can see the black stripes. In order to figure out what section, look at the listing. Look at the listing. Can I find a pointer here? Yes, I can. So rent here is indicated by this gray mark. So this is rent. Fuel, it's white, nothing is in it. This is fuel. Food, so there's a key and you have to know this. So the key, that's food. Entertainment, this is a section here, and saving, this is X up 1 up here. So we're at C. The family spends less on saving than on entertainment. Let's look at saving. Let's look at entertainment. Is that statement true? Less on saving? No. They actually save more than they entertain. Excellent. The last one says the family spends the same on savings as on fuel bills. Let us go back to fuel. Is the white section, and saving is this section. This pretty much looks the same. Well, it's the only one we have left anyway. So yes, it's option D. Option D is the correct response. And from reasoning it out, you could see why option D is correct. Good. We're moving on to question 42. This chart shows information about a company's employees. So we have some things here on the chart, and before you even read the question, let's just look at the chart. On this axis, you have the number of employees, and you see it starts from 0. That means nobody don't work there. All the way up to 55 persons can work at this company. Do they have that? We're not sure. They have age group. So you have 16 to 45. They start working early, man. Then you have 25 to 39, 40 to 59, and 60 and over. 60 plus means you're older than 60. Almost there for retirement. They also have, not only did they tell the age and the number of employees, they have female represented by the light gray, and then the darker color represents the male. So just looking at this diagram, you can see that more males work at the company than female. We don't know if that has anything to do with the question. Let us read the question. What is the difference between the number of male employees aged 16 to 24 and the number of females employees aged 40 to 49? All right, so we are going to do a little writing on the screen. So they want us to look at male 16 to 24, which is here, and they want us to look at females 40 to 59. They're asking us what is the difference between the number of males and the number of females, and they gave us the age group. So the first thing we need to find out is how many males in this group 16 to 24. That looks like 25. And how many females? That looks like 30. All right. So 30 subtract 25 would give us 5. So option A is the best selection because it's correct. All right. And we're moving on to question 43. A student took daily temperature reading in a forest over a month. He works out that the range of the temperatures is 3. What does this show about temperatures? How do you find range? Range is the highest data set value in the data set subtracting the smallest. So if you only have 3 as the range, what does that tell you? It tells you that the temperatures are pretty close. All right? So that's pretty much what it is, because the range is only 3. So, question 44. This table shows the number of hours of overtime an employee worked over the past 8 weeks. Number of hours of overtime. So we have 26064,015. What happens when you see 0? What does that tell you? Yes, there was no overtime for those days. All right, so you want to find out, but you still have to incorporate the time period. What is the average mean number of hours of overtime? And pretty much mean, you add all the values in the data set and then divide by the number of data pieces you have. In this, we have 8 pieces. We added all, and we got 24 divided by 8. So your correct number of hours, the mean number of hours would be 3 hours. On average, they work 3 hours overtime. All right, and that's option A. 45. This table shows the number of ice cream sold each day. So you have 73, 143, and you can see all the other data set. What is the median number of ice cream sold? So we're talking about what is the middle value here. How are we going to find that? Yes, we are going to have to arrange it in either ascending or descending order. So what's the lowest data set? 25, then 73, 80, 88, 89, 90, and 143 is the most ice cream that was sold. Which number appears in the middle? Or which number of ice cream? There are 7 elements, so 88 is smack in the middle of the data, 3 on the left and 3 on the right. So the median here is 88, which is option B. We're at question 46. There are 10 chocolates in a box. 6 are milk chocolate and 4 are dark chocolate. What is the probability that the first chocolate taken out of the box at random will be a dark chocolate? So we have 10 chocolates. We know that 4 of them are dark. So it's 4/10, of course. 4 out of 10. But we don't see 4/10 there. What do? We can simplify 4/10. And we can divide 4 by 2, giving us 2, and 10 by 2, giving us 5. So 2/5 is the same as saying 4/10. So 4 out of every 10, or 2 out of 5, would be dark chocolate. We're at question 47, and we're almost there to the 50 mark. Use this formula to convert a temperature of 15 degrees Celsius into degrees Fahrenheit. Pretty much, guys, all we're doing is substituting values in this equation. So we know that we want to figure out what is 15 degrees as Fahrenheit. So we write the formula as given. We substitute 15 where you see C, which represents degrees Celsius, and we work the formula. And the formula, we'd multiply 15 times 9, gives us 135, divide by 5, and then add 32, which would give us 27 plus 32, which is 59 degrees Fahrenheit. And that's option C. We move right along to algebra. Solve the equation. It's a simple linear equation. And the equation says 5 plus 2w equal 27. What, when multiplied by 2 and added to 5, will give us 27. And pretty much, we can work backwards, undo everything that was done. So we're going to take away the 5 that was added first, and we must do it to both sides of the equation. So that will leave us with 2w equal 22. We're going to undo the multiplication by dividing. So 2w divided by 2 gives us W, and 22 divided by 2 gives us 11. So all that we're left with is the 11. So 11 times 2 is 22. 22 plus 5, 27. That's it. Option B. 49, more algebra. 8x subtract 4 gives us 28. What, when you multiply it by 8 and take away 4 from it, will give us 28? That's what it's really asking us. And we're going to do the very same thing. Undo everything until we find x by itself. We took away 4, so we're going to add it back. So that's the first thing we're going to do. We're going to add the 4, which gives us 8x. We're adding 4 to 28, which gives us 32. What is happening to the x now? It's been multiplied by 8. Undo the multiplication by division. So 8x divided by 8 gives us x, and 32 divided by 8 gives us 4. So x is equal to 4, and you can check it all the time. 8 times 4 is 32. 32 minus, that's not right. That's right. 8 fours. 32 subtract 4 gives us 28. For a moment there, I didn't subtract that 4. So the option is B. Oh my. We are at question 50. 10 more to go. I know you're tired, because I am. So we have a company has a delivery charge of F dollars per kilometers. A customer orders N items at price P each. The customer lives a distance of D kilometers from the company. Which is the correct formula to find the total cost for the order? And I'm going to ask you to just take a picture of this and try and pretty much do it later as best as you can, because I'm going to give you the option that is option A. Substitute as best as possible and reason it out. All right, so it is the cost for the order is going to definitely be the number of items times the price of each item plus the cost per kilogram. All right, and of course, not kilogram, per kilometers. And you'd have to figure out how many kilometers you're traveling, hence why F times D. And we're at another chart, and you're asked, what does this line graph show about the population of Puerto Rico? What does it show? So we're at 1960 and we end up at 1920. It shows that the population has declined sharply since 2010. All right, did I say 1920? 2020, I should have said. All right, so that's option C. 52, house sales. What is missing from this line graph? Let's see. C, a label on the vertical axis. We do not know what's being measured over here. This axis doesn't have a label. All right, and that's option C right there. Which of these statements is true? X, a parallelogram, has 4 sides. Y, a rhombus, is a quadrilateral. And Z, an octagon, is a polygon. Those are all correct statements. X, Y, Z are all correct. So we can say D, because Y, X, and Z are all correct. 54, we are now looking at the bearings. A boat traveling in southeasterly direction will have a bearing of southeast. This is south and this is east. You know that this is 90 degrees here and this is 180. So it must fall between 90 and 180. And that would be option B, 135. A 4-sided shape has angles 70, 70, 120. What is the missing angle? 4-sided shape has a total of 360 degrees. So we'd add all 3 angles that are given, subtract it from 360, giving us 100 degrees. And that would be option C. Pythagoras theorem, the right angle triangle here, you have 2 sides, 1 is missing. What is the length? You're going to use your theory that C squared equals A squared plus B squared. And you're going to substitute as best as possible, square the centimeters, And then you are going to undo that by finding the square root of it. And you pretty much get the square root of 100, which is 10. So x would equal to 10 centimeter, and that's option B. Here we have a shape, and what is the area? This is a compound shape. We can pretty much separate it into a triangle and a rectangle and work out individual shapes. So we work out the area of the rectangle, then we work out the area of the triangle. After you find both areas, you would add them to give you the total area of the compound shape, which in this instance is option C, 130 squared meters. 58, and we're asked to find the area of this shape. This is a semicircle, and the area of a circle is pi r squared. And since this is half of the circle, we'd find the area of the entire circle divided by 2, which gives us 39 and 2500, or 39.25 squared centimeter. And that would be option B. Then you are at 59. The diagram shows a solid metal cylinder, and you can see the dimensions there. And you're asked to find the volume. The volume is found by finding the area of the base multiplied by the height. And we do just that. We use the same formula because the base is a circle. We find the area of the base, and the height in this instance is 8 centimeters, and we multiply through, and you would get the volume of 226.08 cubic centimeter. And your option C would be the correct option. And we're at the final question for the afternoon, and this is: the sides of cube B are double, and the length of side C of the sides of cube A, the surface area. You're asked, what is the surface area? How does it relate? So this is the side of cube A. This is the side of cube B, and as you can see, it fits on it perfectly. So you would see that it is option B, 4 times the surface area of the base of cube A. Thank you so very much for staying with us. It was a pleasure engaging you today. We look forward to all students across Jamaica doing well in all exams that they have. Please take the time, rewatch the videos as many times as you need to, either on Facebook, YouTube, or Instagram, and apply yourself. Although we have gone through, this horrible hurricane, many persons displaced, we still give God thanks that we are able to do our exams and continue with life. Have a good one.